President Obama says he's renewing his efforts to close Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay? How about closing the IRS? Why don't we do that? In fact, how about shipping the IRS to Guantanamo Bay? That's what we... Yes! That's how you do it!
Jay Leno. And it's becoming a pattern, as I think we discussed last week with our next guest on Malzberg's Media Madness. If it's Friday and the midway point of the show, it has to be Noel Sheppard, associate editor of Newsbusters.org. Hello, my friend.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Very, very well. It's Friday.
It is.
The weeks just fly by, just so that, I mean, it's almost like we talk every day.
It really, it really is that way. And I guess, this is, believe it or not, for this show, this is show number 95.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
it's amazing. But anyway, okay. Jay Leno, that was one thing he said this week. I'm gonna play a couple more. Here's a cut we played earlier in the show. This would be 51. Ladies and gentlemen, 51, Jay Leno.
See, when I was growing up, we were always afraid of Big Brother watching us. And now with Obama, we actually have a brother watching us. You know what I'm saying? We got a brother watching us. That's right.
And one more for good measure, Noel, and then you could weigh in on Leno and what he's doing. Cut number 52 in the same monologue. Here we go.
And Attorney General Eric Holder said, despite all these controversies, he has no intention of stepping down. Hey, Eric, I didn't either. Sometimes it just happens, okay? Sometimes it just happens. Welcome to show business.
All right. So anyway, we discussed this. That I thought maybe ever since he was on the outs and knew that he was leaving NBC, he became more, a little more anti-administration, and it just continues.
Well, and it seems like he's really having fun with his last few months. I mean, he's really opened up. I mean, I was a big Johnny Carson fan. I think that we all love Johnny, and Jay for me was never Johnny. But in the past couple of months, and it's not just him going after Obama, although that's great, but he seems to be tremendously relaxed and having the time of his life. And you just wonder whether, is this his swan song and he's going to retire after this? Or is he kind of auditioning for a role at, dare I say, Fox?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he is so good now and so much better than any of the other folks on TV, whether it's Conan or Letterman or Fallon or Kimmel. It's not even close. He really has blossomed into this role, and it would be sad if this really is the swan song, and he's just having a lot of fun now, knowing that he's going to go out on the high.
We talked about this.
We get to see him again.
Yeah, we talked about this, I think, last week, where you made the analogy, a baseball analogy. Kicking NBC's taking their star pitcher who won the Cy Young and is going to win the Cy Young, and they're saying this is going to be your last year because we're bringing in, Jimmy Fallon. We're bringing in a guy who we think could be Rookie of the Year. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right. We've got a guy down in AAA he's got good numbers, but they're not as good as yours. But we think we're going to bring him up, and he's going to be better. It makes no sense. But look, everything NBC and MSNBC are doing at this point. I mean, as I'm sure you know, and Jay's been joking about this, NBC is fourth in the ratings behind ABC, CBS, and Univision.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just doing a terrible job.
They absolutely are. All right, let's move on to another host. And there's always so much. And I think on Monday I used so many of your stories on Bill Maher and some of the things that he said, and going after the Pope and the Catholic Church again, and just abhorrent stuff. But here he was. He was in the guest chair on Craig Ferguson's show. And and he was touting his longevity and his how he's still standing, to quote Elton John, and he's had this show and that show, and here I am. And let's pick it up. Here's cut 57.
Wow. But I've endured. That's gangster.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're still here. And I may say, I'm impressed you still go out and do the stand-up. You still do your thing. Still, do your thing.
Do you?
Yeah, all the time. You have to give it a sense of autonomy from the Borg that controls you. In my case, CBS. In your case, the Democratic Party.
You know what?
it's a joke, Bill. It was a joke. It was a joke.
I don't mind a joke. That's just not an accurate one.
Now, okay, you wrote about it brilliantly, and you talked about it. Here's the thing that struck me. For him to say, I don't mind a joke, but it's just not accurate. That's
Right.
all he does. When he gives his political commentary, he claims it's all a joke because he's a comedian. He could be he's as inaccurate as anybody.
That's right. Actually, he's tremendously inaccurate, and I didn't write about that. Thanks for bringing it up. I mean, that the hypocrisy there. I mean, very, very often he says something that he knows is tremendously rude, and he'll say, "Oh, I just kid the Republicans," or "Oh, I just kid Sarah Palin." So clearly, this is a guy who is comfortable when he's on the giving end of the attack, but not on the receiving end. I was shocked that Ferguson said that.
I know that was shocking in and of itself. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and he quickly says, "Oh, it's a joke, but it wasn't a joke. It was pretty darn serious, and Ferguson's audience knew it."
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And what got me, I hearkened back immediately to what he said about the Pope, that he believes the Pope's an atheist. Now,
Yeah.
he could either say he really believes that, which he'd be locked up in an insane asylum, or it's a joke, but of course it's an inaccurate joke, which is what he's mad that Ferguson did to him.
Yeah, the Pope is an atheist.
Yeah. Oh, and that was the tame part of the whole thing. Again,
Yeah,
with the priests don't believe in the whole thing. They're just there for the sex. All this garbage.
Yeah.
When does it end already? When does it end?
Well, I guess it ends when the public decides they don't want it anymore, and his ratings get so low, or HBO subscriptions are canceled. I mean, look, I mean, not to change the subject, move to MSNBC, but I think that the viewers are making a statement right now about MSNBC not being news, and they're turning off MSNBC. I think that it ends when people turn Bill Maher off, and I think that you still have a lot of people who think he's very funny. And by the way, I think at times he's funny. I think he was much funnier when he's on Comedy Central, and he wasn't such a Republican basher. He was a much more equal opportunity offender when he was on Comedy Central, when he had his show Politically Incorrect, which I think you and I have talked about. It was a fabulous program.
Yep. Yeah.
It was a marvelous program, but he turned very, very hard to the left after 9/11, and he got booted off of ABC, and he's had a vendetta against the right as a result, because he blames the right for him being fired by ABC.
Absolutely. No, he absolutely does. Okay, by the way, just for the folks, the update on the shooting at Santa Monica College, reportedly now police are looking for a second shooter. There had been reports that the suspect was down. There were multiple injuries reported. I don't know that any of that's been confirmed, but now, according to police, they're seeking a second shooter based on reports. Now, people could say they saw two shooters, whether or not that's accurate or not. So there's a lot we don't know. Injuries, extent of injuries, how many shooters, if there is a guy down. But we'll keep you up to date. Well, the police are saying they have one person in custody, and reports of a possible second shooter, according to CNN, as I speak. So that's where we are with that. But let's go to you couldn't have done it any better, Noel. I didn't forward you the script because there is no script. But my next story from your great blog at newsbusters.org was Martin Bashir at MSNBC. So let's go to that. And first of all, I think first and foremost, I have the cut of him talking about. Well, let's listen to cut 30. We got cut 30. Here we go. Cut 30.
This strategy is nothing new, and it was explained way back in 1981 by Lee Atwater, who was Bush 41's chief strategist. In a tape recording, Mr. Atwater revealed how Republicans evolve their language to achieve the same purpose. He said, "You start out in 1954 by saying N-word, N-word, N-word. By 1968, you can't say N-word. That hurts you, backfires. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff, and you're getting so abstract. Now you're talking about cutting taxes. We want to cut this." Is much more abstract than even the busing thing, and a hell of a lot more abstract than N-word, N-word.
Okay. There he is misrepresenting what Lee Atwater said in 1981. And I just want to play you cut 31, and then you could explain the whole story. Here's cut 31.
So this afternoon, we welcome the latest phrase in the lexicon of Republican attacks on this president, the IRS. 3 letters that sound so innocent, but we know what you mean.
Okay, and he claims the IRS is the new N-word, basically, which is just insane. And we got another cut from something else he said later. But explain, and you pointed out in your story, you took the quote from Atwater, and you put in what he left out, which gives context and new meaning to what he put on his board there.
Frankly, Steve, Martin Bashir should have been immediately fired for this, because before you even get to the selective editing, saying IRS is like saying the N-word or is like saying busing. The IRS is the new racist Republican dog whistle because we want to get the black man, and he said this, the black man out of the White House. This is astonishingly disgraceful, even for MSNBC, even for Martin Bashir, who was an astonishingly disgraceful little man.
All right, stop right there. I want to let people hear him say that about getting the black man out of the White House. Cut 29. This will be Will. This is from another related story that Noel wrote about a day prior to this, or the day after he said this. Here's cut 29.
The IRS is being used in exactly the same way as they tried to use the president's birth certificate. You see, for Republicans like Darrell Issa, who knows something about arson, the IRS now stands for something inflammatory. Those 3 letters are now on fire with political corruption and malfeasance, burning hot, just like that suspicious fire that engulfed Mr. Issa's warehouse back in 1982. And despite the complete lack of any evidence linking the president to the targeting of Tea Party groups, Republicans are using it as their latest weapon in the war against the black man in the White House.
That is so... First of all, insinuating that there was a fire at a business 40 years ago or whatever of Darrell Issa, and they suspected arson. So he's implying that he had his own business burnt down to collect insurance money, where there was obviously no proof of that, no accusations of that. But to say again, and you know what? Matthew said the same thing this past week as well. Again, it's because the Republicans can't stand the black man in the White House. And this has become accepted discourse on that network.
It's totally accepted discourse, regardless of who the commentator or the guest is. And in this instance, the follow-up to this piece was what Bashir did, and this is also becoming quite common at NBC and MSNBC, is he edited out significant portions of what Atwater said. This was an interview that Atwater did in 1981 with a professor at Case Western University. And what Atwater was discussing was the evolution of what's called the Southern strategy. And he was talking about how, back in 1954, you could say the N-word. Okay, and then the N-word, once you got into the 60s and 70s, you couldn't say that any longer, so now it became busing. But his point was that Reagan ran on a low-tax, strong economy, strong defense platform. Reagan didn't have to use any of the racist code words. That was his point, was that Reagan didn't do that, that once we got into 1980, that you couldn't do that anymore and you didn't need to. But Martin Bashir and his producers and folks at NBC and MSNBC seem completely comfortable with editing out the material part of what Atwater was talking about to make it reflect that Atwater was racist, Reagan was a racist, Republicans are all racist. This is when is there going to be some disciplinary action against somebody at NBC or MSNBC when they selectively edit what people say or write?
Right. They did it, of course, to Mitt Romney when he was making that remark about the burger place. They did it to George Zimmerman, and although I believe there a reporter and a producer did get fired, but still, and of course it was done by Was it Mitchell? Andrea Mitchell. Was that the? Oh, that was the Mitt Romney thing. Yeah, it's for any organization, let alone NBC, you'd think they would want to stop that, but apparently they don't care.
They don't seem to care. I got to tell you, when I watched this, I don't remember whether it was Monday or Tuesday, whatever the day was. I was so angry about this. I couldn't, and I watch Bashir every day. Lord help me.
I was going to say, yeah.
No, I know. Well, somebody has to. But it's and we haven't discussed this yet. His ratings, maybe we did last week. He has some of the consistently lowest ratings on cable news. And, I mean, nobody watches them. And in the demo, he's typically under 100,000 people in the demo, as little as 50,000 in the demo. Nobody's watching this man. When is Phil Griffin, the president of MSNBC, going to realize that he's got some very, very serious problems in his lineup? And that's why this network now ranks 4th behind Fox, CNN, and Headline News. And I think it's just going to get worse. I really believe.
Well, you know what the answer is, Noel. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You know what the answer is? Just put Al Sharpton on every other hour.
Right. I mean, exactly. I mean, the reality is at this point, why would anybody other than a masochist like myself want to watch more than an hour of MSNBC programming? It's all the same hour after hour. It's just Bush bashing, Republican bashing, and Obama cheerleading. You really don't need many hours of that. You watch one show, and and in reality, it's almost like, and you're going to like this analogy, it's almost like now a soap opera. You can turn MSNBC off for a couple, 3 weeks, and come back, and it's that's what they had on 3 weeks ago. The last time
I know a couple of radio shows that are the very same way. And on that note, I hope you have a great week.